All right, let's just dive right in and decode the hidden world of industrial measurement systems. If you're studying instrumentation, you already know that the physical world is messy, but our control systems, well, they need clean, incredibly precise data. Today, we're focusing on exactly how we capture and display pressure and vacuum data. We're going to take these complex, heavy-duty industrial concepts and break them down into exactly what you need to know for your diploma-level studies.
So we've got a pretty packed syllabus today. Here's our roadmap for the explainer. We'll be looking at the anatomy of measurement systems, mechanical pressure elements, the electrical transition, inductance and resistance methods, and finally, measuring the vacuum.
Starting off with Section 1, the anatomy of measurement systems. Because, you can't just plug a laptop directly into a highly pressurized pipe. There's a whole process. Every single measurement loop out there essentially follows these 5 crucial stages. It all kicks off at step 1, the primary sensing element that actually grabs the physical energy, like the pressure pushing against it. Then we step through conversion, manipulation, and transmission, ultimately landing at step 5, the data presentation element. That's what actually shows us a number on a dial or a screen. Think of it like touching a hot stove, right? Your finger is the sensor, your nerves handle the transmission, and your brain saying ouch is the presentation. And this brings us to one of the absolute most critical translators in that entire chain, the I to P converter. You absolutely have to know this one because industrial environments constantly need to translate digital software commands, which are usually an electrical current sitting between 4 and 20 milliamps, into physical pneumatic muscle. Usually that's a pressure signal between 3 and 15 psig. It is literally how the digital brain talks to the physical valves. Moving on to Section 2, mechanical pressure elements, because before things get electrical, they almost always start out physical. When you need to know the different types of pressure measuring elements, these are your big 3, the bourdon tube, the spiral, and the helix. You will see these everywhere in plants around the world. The crucial takeaway here is that these aren't just random, curly shapes. They're actually made of metal tubes with a very specific, flattened, elliptical cross-section. When pressure from a fluid or a gas builds up inside them, that elliptical shape desperately wants to become completely round. And as it tries to round out, the entire coil literally uncoils and straightens out. It acts as a mechanical amplifier, taking just a tiny amount of internal pressure and turning it into a very useful, visible, physical motion.
And this brings us right to mechanical indicating elements. By connecting that tiny uncoiling motion to a mechanical linkage, we can amplify the movement even further. We get a mechanical indicating element where a pointer physically sweeps across a calibrated dial. I mean, it's old school, but it is highly reliable engineering. The physical expansion literally pushes the needle to show you to pressure.
Section 3, the electrical transition. Because while physical dials are awesome, modern plants really need that data sent straight to a central control room. This right here is the great transition. Mechanical indicators rely on physical pointers, gears, and, well, you having to physically stand in front of the machine to observe it. Electrical indicators allow us to ditch those old paper chart recorders and transmit data as electrical current directly to monitors and microprocessor-based control systems. It's basically the difference between checking your car's oil with a dipstick versus having a sensor just pop a notification right up on your dashboard screen. But it's funny, the very first electric pressure gauges and indicating elements were surprisingly physical themselves. Early electric indicating elements, like the hot wire instrument, actually relied on the heating and sagging of a wire, usually a superfine platinum wire. When electrical current from a sensor passed through it, the wire heated up, expanded, and physically sagged. That sag was pulled by a spring in a silk thread, causing a pulley to rotate a pointer. It was just a totally ingenious way to measure electrical quantity completely independent of the current's frequency.
Jumping into Section 4, inductance and resistance methods. So how do we get incredible precision for truly microscopic displacements?
Well, this electric displacement gauge from Pratt & Whitney is fascinating because it captures 2 critical concepts in one highly sophisticated setup. It shows us exactly how we can take microscopic physical movements caused by pressure and turn them into super accurate electrical readings on a microammeter. Let's break down exactly what's happening. First up, you need to know about the inductance coil method of an indicating element. This involves shifting an iron armature inside a transformer coil. As the pressure moves the armature, it changes the magnetic field, the inductance, which directly alters the electrical voltage output. Alternatively, we have the resistance rod indicating element,
often using what's called a strain gauge. Here, microscopic wire elements are literally stretched or compressed by the physical force. As the wire stretches, it gets thinner and its electrical resistance naturally increases. In both cases, we are magically turning microscopic physical changes into highly accurate, easily transmitted electrical signals.
And finally, Section 5, measuring the vacuum. We've talked a whole lot about positive pressure bursting outward, but it is time to flip the scripts.
This leads us directly to the measurement of vacuums. This is an equally critical part of industrial systems, especially in chemical processing and manufacturing, where pulling a vacuum is absolutely necessary for certain reactions to even happen.
Now, measuring a vacuum isn't some entirely different set of physics. It's really just the exact opposite end of the standard pressure spectrum.
In fact, if you look at the standard identification letters used in industrial instrument symbols, which is basically the universal language engineers use on blueprints, pressure and vacuum share the exact same designation. They both just use the letter P. Because a vacuum is simply a negative pressure relative to the atmosphere we're currently standing in, all the same underlying mechanical and electrical principles we just talked about totally apply. You can have a bored-in tube designed for vacuum, where the tube curls tighter instead of uncoiling. Whether we're looking at different types of vacuum gauges or high-pressure sensors, the variable conversion and manipulation concepts are exactly the same. They just operate in reverse.
From uncoiling metal tubes to microscopic changes in magnetic fields, we've seen how ingenious engineering makes the invisible forces of pressure completely visible. So think about that as you review your syllabus and keep questioning how we continue to turn the messy physical world into the ultra-precise, measurable data that runs our modern industries.